Welcome to Stock Talk with Mike. Today I want to talk about what caused shares of Invitae, ticker NVTA, to skyrocket after hours on Friday. I saw it up as much as about 12% after hours trading, after being down almost 4% during trading hours on the day, and it settled in at about 10.76% up after hours on Friday. So I'm going to talk about what caused that spike and a little bit of a dive into Invitae. So if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to the channel. It'd also be great if you like this video. So if you're not familiar with Invitae, they do genetic testing, which is used for screening for potential hereditary diseases, rare diseases, cancers, also heart problems and things of that nature. And this is an area of medical field that is growing exponentially because there's a lot of value in getting out ahead of potential predisposition to various conditions. So doctors and healthcare workers know what to look for, and patients know what potentially could ail them in the future. So really, it's really valuable insight, and more people are turning to genetic testing to test for somebody, especially if there's been a history of a particular health problem in someone's family as well. So shares, as I mentioned, Invitae shot up after hours on Friday, and it was after a Bloomberg article that came out saying that Exact Sciences has been said to have approached Invitae about a potential merger. So this is more of like an acquisition. Exact Sciences is about quadruple the size of Invitae. Invitae is around a $5 or $6 billion market cap. Exact Science, I think, is around a $25 billion company, much larger company. And again, the article goes on to say that the companies have not been in prior talks, and they both declined to comment. So this is really early speculative stages. I'm sure it did happen, but there's still a lot of unraveling here before we know if this actually unfolds. And the fact that Invitae is a high-flying growth stock, I mean, it's got revenues are soaring, and the stock price has been a little bit suppressed lately. I imagine if there is an acquisition here, that it'd be for a much higher share price at a premium to today's trading. So that is probably what's caused a spike, is some speculation that this does go through. So it's some exciting news. So something I've been showing a lot lately is hedge funds and money managers positions in various stocks. Through the 13F filings, they're required to report that. And this just shows here what an impact that kind of has. So this is using Invitae as an example, with the orange line being the share price, and then the bluish green bars there being hedge funds or money managers positions in Invitae. And you can see there's pretty direct correlation between more hedge funds buying and share price. Not really a surprise there. These big money managers are what really move a market. When you see those big high volume days and that cause these big share price fluctuations, you can often correlate that to big money moving into the fund through some of these hedge funds that cause these big movement in these stocks. But the site I like to use here to track as a hedge fund and money manager buying is Whale Wisdom. There's a bunch of others out there, but let's have a look at Invitae. Let's go here, and it's usually about a quarter delay because these money managers are required to report after each quarter. So this is for Q1 2021, last quarter, and you can see there's 359 funds holding and 347 the quarter prior, so slight increase, but only 8 funds have it in their top 10 versus 10 prior. And looking at new positions, increased positions, slightly higher than closed and reduced positions. So kind of neutral here. I'm not seeing any big inflows, at least in Q1, from money managers, but yeah, so not a lot of information there. But you can also scroll down and see who's buying, and that's always kind of interesting. So you can look at one way to sort is by percent ownership in the company. So who are the big holders of Invitae stock in this example? And number one here, we got ARK Invest, which isn't a surprise. This is definitely a Cathie Wood backed company. in their Genomic Revolution fund, the ARKG fund. So they are actually about 11% or 10.7% ownership in Invitae. Then you got Vanguard Group, obviously another massive firm. And then Baker Bros. This is a very interesting one. I would say this is the most interesting here, actually, is 7.8%. And the share change is up 100,000 shares. So they've ticked up their position size a little bit. It's 2.58% of their portfolio. I've seen this stock higher in their portfolio in years past. When I first started a position, I think in 2018, they had a much larger position. So they've obviously rung the register a little bit. But why Baker Brothers is interesting is they are actually solely invested, or at least primarily, in healthcare and biotech companies. And they have a track record of market beating returns. And so they're a great firm to follow for specifically for those healthcare and biotech type stocks. I often look at what some of their largest holdings are. And also, if I'm looking at a biotech stock, I'll often see if Baker Brothers are buying or if they hold it, just trying to add to my conviction. I don't just follow them aimlessly, but it can give some additional insight. So the share price at close was $29.66, moving up to over $32 after hours. But analysts actually have end-of-year price targets. Average consensus of $38.60 is where they think Invitae is headed. That would represent about a 30% upside from here. And that range is actually, one analyst has their price target as high as 50% and on the low range 33, which is still a little bit upside. So generally, analysts are quite bullish on Invitae in the short term, and overall rating is a moderate buy. So one of the reasons I'm invested in Invitae is genetic testing, I think, is an industry that's only going to grow from here exponentially over the next decade or more. We know it's so important to get out in front in early detection of cancers, or to just have that awareness of potential predisposition to various hereditary diseases. And I see genetic testing as a great tool, and we're going to see more and more adoption of genetic testing moving forward, in my opinion. And Invitae, they're not the sole player in this space. There is competition, but they are growing very quickly, and that's something I look for in a company in a disruptive space, is that really high growth rate. So back in 2018, when I first invested in Invitae, they were having annual revenues around $25 million, and that's grown exponentially since then. In 2017 up to 65, then 145, 2019 213, nearly doubling, then 272, and then this year we're seeing 72% growth up to about $481 million projected for the full year 2021. Next year they're expected, analysts are predicting another 39% growth up to $670 million, and then up to $885 million by 2023. And so you're going to see this company exceed $1 billion in revenue here in the near future, probably by 2024, if not sooner, to be honest, because they're growing revenues extremely fast. And they actually have a somewhat decent valuation. They traded about 12 times this year's sales and about 8 times full year 2022 expected revenue. So not too bad, but we want to see those earnings per share continue to head in the right direction, as they're again another company that I hold, one of these high-flying growth stocks that is not currently profitable. But again, they're only a $5 or $6 billion company, and I think they should be focusing on their growth right now. So just having a look at my purchases of Invitae, I hold some Invitae in my growth basket or my growth portfolio. And as I mentioned, I've owned it since 2018. May 9th, 2018, I started my initial position. I think it shows 25 shares here, but it was actually, I think I had around 200 shares at that 565 cost basis. But this is actually a company for me that performed incredibly well. And at the peak there, I was up over 1,000% in Invitae. So I definitely was taking some off the table. at some very high levels. I think this traded at $50 or up to $60 a share or so. And just keeping it properly weighted in my portfolio. Generally, I don't let a stock get much above 5%, maybe 7% if it's a really high conviction company. So I'll let it run a little past that, and then I'll take a chunk off, sort of thing. And since then, we've seen the share price come in a little bit. After I had sold some shares at a much higher price, I started nibbling back some here recently, as we've seen some selling pressure in this stock as well. So I bought 46 shares back in July 8th at $30.85 a share. And then I bought some more July 13th, again 46 shares at $29.85. Just trying to build back out that position as we see these lower levels again, and keep that weighting there around where I want it. And we're kind of sitting around those levels right now. After hours trading is up, of course, 32. So I'm up slightly, as of the time of recording, on those new entries, but still up huge off my original position and my realized gains as well, profits I've taken in Invitae. So again, I really like Invitae here. I think it's actually trading at a reasonable price range right now too. Anything definitely in the 20s, I think, is a great position. And I've recently bought shares around $29 and $30 a share. But I think it's pretty good at these levels. And again, revenue is still accelerating. They recently reported earnings, and shortly after, the share price went up quite a bit after earnings, and then started to taper off a little bit, and then spiked again on this news about this potential acquisition. So definitely there's some interest in this stock, and we're starting to see some big moves up on news right now, and I think there's more to come. So I think this is a great name, and definitely if you're not investing in Invitae, it's worth taking a bit of a closer look. Maybe listening to the recent Q2 conference call, and taking a bit of a deep dive into Invitae. So that's what I got for you today. So thanks again for watching. Remember, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. And it'd be great also if you could like this video. Have a great day. Happy investing.